this video updating our projects page, okay? So we've already done a little bit of work in terms of when we were making it, we made the cursor pointer when I hover over one of these boxes and the background gray 100, but that's was just while we were doing it, not actually how I'd like things to be done. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to refactor a little bit. So typically whenever I map over something, I'll just quickly return exactly what I want, okay? But that's not necessarily the best method. I actually like to create a component for that. So I'm going to call this project box.tsx, okay? Then I'm going to create my project box component, and I'm going to return. And then I'm going to just take everything that's in here, cut, and paste. All right, so we have to do some importing and some exporting. We need to add some props too, but this will be a lot easier to read, which is always helpful. Okay, so this is part of the make it better. All right, so the next thing is this function, go to project ID. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look, is go to project used anywhere else in this component? And it's not. So what I can do is I can actually take it out of my projects component and I can put it into my project box component. All right, we're not navigating anywhere else either, so I can actually take that out of projects and I can put it back into project box, and then I need to import. All right, so now it looks like we have project that needs to be passed in as a prop. So we will go ahead and add that as type props. And then we have to define type props, and we are going to define it as project is going to be equal to project. And let's import that. All right, so that's looking good. So now here, what we can do is we can say project box, project equals project, and let's close it. And now we have a much cleaner component, but everything looks the same, okay? Perfect. All right, so now when we are editing our style, we just have to edit the project box style, and then we can come back, okay? So my goal is to make this box here look how we want. Now, eventually, I'd like to make my styling a little bit more reusable. So I would add something to maybe another layer style for something like project box or box button or something like that. But I'm not gonna worry about that yet. That's going to be part of like the make it better part. The first thing is I'm just gonna try to make it look how I want. I'm gonna play around with it, and then when I feel really good about it, then I can move it and kind of make it more reusable. Okay, so the first thing that I notice is I do like a border, but I also really like a border radius. Okay, that's gonna round my edges. So I'm gonna do a border radius of medium, and I already think that looks a lot better, okay? I think the border being black is a little bit confusing, so I'm also going to go to my theme so I can find this color here, and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it in, so that way my border is the purple color that I like. So if I zoom in, you can see it's that dark purple, okay? That already looks better. All right, so the next thing that I want to do is I want to change the on hover. I don't like this background color, gray 100. What I would prefer is I actually want a background color on the box in general, okay? So I'm gonna add it here. Background color, nope. And then I want my background color to be white because that's gonna mirror kind of what my boxes look like here, okay? So that looks better in my opinion, okay? And then I also wanna add a box shadow. I'm gonna say a box shadow is going to be medium. So that kind of just gives a little bit of dimension to the look. but I still do want, so like on hover right, it's just pointer, but I do want something. I want it to look a little bit different whenever I am working on, whenever I'm hovering over the project. Okay, I don't think it's enough to just say cursor pointer. What I want to do though is I'm going to actually transform the box. Okay, I want to scale it, and I'm going to make it just a tiny bit bigger. Okay, so let's take a look at what that looks like. So now when I hover over, see how it kind of makes the box just a little bit bigger, and it shows me which one I'm hovering over. I like that. Okay, so then what I want to do though is when I actually click on it, I want it to change. So now I'm hovering and it's making it bigger. I want to make it on click, right? So that's actually going to be _active. And what we can do is we can copy this transform, and I'm just going to put it back to the normal one. But it'll do a kind of cool effect where I can click on it and it looks like I'm actually pushing a button. Okay? You can style your buttons and your boxes however you want. This is just how I'm gonna do it, okay? So I feel like that looks pretty good. And now what I would do is I would be able to actually go and kind of export this to my theme. So here I'm gonna say box button, okay? And then I'm gonna go figure out what all needs to come, okay? So the border radius, the background color, the box shadow, okay? I'm gonna steal all of this, even the padding in the margin, okay? And I'm gonna put it into that theme. You'll notice it's gonna be mad at us because the syntax is a little bit different here, and because it's an object, so we need to change it a little bit. We need to also add some commas. Doesn't seem to like padding 4 and margin bottom, so I'm actually gonna take this back and I'm gonna leave that in here. All right, so now that all went away, right? I also want this on hover and on active to go into my theme. So I'm gonna need to edit this a little bit as well. We're getting there. Now we need to replicate that for active. Excuse me, I'm kind of sick today. All right, so now in order to make the box do what we want it to, we would say layer style is going to be equal to box button. Perfect. All right, so now that didn't help too much, okay? Because essentially we already have project box in a component. It doesn't really help us too much to change that and export this. Where this does help us is if we have another box button. But if you look, when I go to my feature, I think I could use the box button there. We might need to make some edits, but I think that's gonna help us, okay? All right, so the next thing that we are going to edit is we are going to edit our add a project accordion. All right, I want it to look similar to these box buttons, but I don't want it to look the same, okay? It also functions a little bit differently, so I want to be weary of how I'm doing it. So I'm not going to use box button for it, but I might steal some of the elements, okay? So now that we have project box good, let's go back to projects. All right, let's go ahead and delete some of our unused imports. All right, and we are going to edit the create project accordion. All right, so this accordion is a little bit silly in terms of it has its own style. So when we're editing it, we're going to have to do some trial and error to figure out exactly what we want in terms of editing. Okay? So I think what I want to do is flip the colors. So here we have white as the background and then the border is purple. I think what I want to do is do more of like a purple background with white lettering and maybe no border, but let's go ahead and try it out and see what we come up with. All right. I'm going to collapse some of these functions because I'm not worrying about functionality right now, just worrying about this. Okay, so our accordion item has a border around it. I am going to go ahead and take that away for now. And look, okay, so that looks pretty good. And we are going to add a border radius though, because I'm going to make a background color. And when I make the background color, I want it to look rounded, okay? So first I'm going to try to put the background color here. And I'm going to use that purple that we have for our text. All right. But now you can see that my icon looks bad and my text completely disappeared. So we're going to need to go here and we need to change this. So the layer style is text, which does include the color of the text being purple. But I can overwrite that by changing this to color white. Okay. Then I'm going to do the same thing for my icons. I'm going to just copy this color white and paste it in here. All right, so now my icon is white. I think this purple is a little bit too harsh. So what I'm actually going to do is I started looking this up, but I'm going to use a hex to RGB color converter. And the reason I can do that, the reason I'm going to do that is because I can add this instead, and then I can actually add in some transparency to it. So let's start with like 0.4 and see where we end up. All right, that looks a little too transparent for me. Let's try 0.6. It's a little bit better, but I still feel like I want a little bit more. Let's try 0.75. All right, that actually looks quite nice in my opinion. All right, but the issue that I'm having is now when I open it, it looks nice up top, but I think I want this portion of my accordion to be a white background and not the purple background. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this background color and I'm going to take it out of the accordion item and I'm going to put it into my accordion button. All right, so now I have my accordion button is that purple color and the rest is not. So I want my accordion panel then, well, first off, I don't want my accordion panel to have that black border. I do still like the border, I think, but I'm gonna go ahead and copy this color again, so that way I can add it. All right, so that looks a little bit better already. And then what I wanna do here is I wanna add a background color and I'm going to say white. All right, I like that. Now you'll notice that my rounding is not looking good and on hover it does not look good. So let's fix the on hover first. Okay, so the way that we can do that is we can go to our button, okay, our accordion button here, and we can add in an on hover. There's already some like programming, like styling in the accordion button that makes it on hover look a little bit different. So what we want to do is we want to just kind of reset it. All right, and the way that we can do that is we can say background color, and then we're gonna paste this in and put this in quotes. All right, so now when I hover over, it's gonna look the same, okay? And that's looking better. So our accordion button though is, even though the accordion item has the radius, the accordion button does not, so it's kind of overriding it. So we're gonna go ahead and add this border radius to the button. All right, so now just the button itself looks how I want it to look. The issue though is this button stays rounded on the bottom when I expand, and that's not how I want it to look. So we're going to have to add some conditional rendering here. Okay, so for border radius, okay, I am actually going to separate it into border top radius, okay, which solves the problem of when it's expanded, but you can see it doesn't solve the problem when it's closed. So I'm also going to add border bottom radius, okay? And this is where I'm gonna make it conditional. We have this is expanded variable here. So that's where we're gonna use it. So we're gonna say is expanded. If it is expanded, okay, then we want no bottom border radius. But if it's closed, if it's not expanded, then we want medium. Okay, so here we have it not expanded, it's medium. We open it up, okay, and now it's not expanded. Okay, but you'll see that the panel then, all right, now the panel is not having a rounded bottom, so we have to go look at our panel and we have to figure out how to add that, okay? That should be pretty easy. We should just be able to do border bottom radius medium. And that looks great. All right, so you might wonder then, do we need this border radius on the accordion item? So what I would do is I would actually just check, okay? So I would close this, that looks good. I would open it, that still looks good. Close, open, close, open. Okay, I feel good about it, so we can just go ahead and get rid of that. All right, the next thing that I'm gonna do is I am going to edit this button here. So I'm going to use the button docs from Chakra UI. You can see on my Coding with Callie website that my icon buttons and my regular buttons are green. So if we go down, you can see that they have color schemes. Okay, so I just picked the green color scheme because it's easy. I think it looks good with my colors. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go find that button and then I'm going to write color scheme green. All right, and now that button is automatically updated, which is lovely. Okay, so the next thing that we wanna do, let's type in. So it looks like that's good in terms of it's purple and it's the font. Right, create project. Okay, that looks good. So the next thing I want to do is I actually want to add the same or similar animation that I have to here, where it gets the button gets a little bit bigger and then it goes back to normal when I click on it. Okay, so I'm going to set that up. The way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to add the on hover and on active. Okay, to the button. So on hover, we already have that we want the background color. So what we're going to do is we're just going to add a comma and then we're going to do our transform. And the way we are transforming is we're going to scale 1.005. Okay. So now you can see when I hover over it, it's going to go ahead and get a little bit bigger. So now we can say active. And then we can go ahead and copy this. We will paste it in and we just want it to scale 1. All right, let's take a look. So I hover, it gets a little bit bigger, click, it gets smaller, I unclick, it opens. Okay, that looks good. The issue I have now is anytime I hover over it when it's open, it still gets bigger and I don't want that. So what we're gonna do is we need to add some conditions to our hover. Okay, so we're gonna use this is expanded again, and we're gonna say is expanded. Okay, And then we are going to say otherwise not expanded. So I'm going to copy this object here and put it in. Okay, so if it's expanded, we still want the background color to be that purple color. But if it's expanded, we don't want to have the transform scale. So if you look, we don't have the transform scale. Now we do have the transform scale. Don't have it, do have it. Okay, so that looks pretty good in my opinion. So I feel like we are doing pretty good in terms of what this looks like. I think I would probably not change these input windows. If you go to the contact Callie, you can see that I have the background, the fill is white, but that's when it's not a white background. So let's see if I can find an example where I don't. What about reviews? Okay, so it looks like all of my forms have the white background on there. And this one does not because the background is white on the actual thing. So I actually think I'm going to leave the input as is. I'm going to test out having the border that purple to begin with. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to put it in here. See how that looks. Let's see how it looks when I click on it. I don't think I like it. I think I like the input as it is. So I'm gonna leave it. Okay, but I feel good about it. Looks good to me. Okay, so the next thing that we can do then is we can go ahead and use our theme. So what I'm gonna add is I'm gonna add accordion button. All right, and then I'm gonna go look to see, if I spelled accordion right, because I have no idea. Looks like I did. And then what all we're adding to the accordion button. So background color, the hover, the active, the border radius. Okay, and then I'm gonna copy this and paste it in and then edit. Okay, so I think the is expanded is likely not gonna work. I'm curious if I can pass in like an arrow function. I don't know if that's a thing, but let's go ahead and give it a try. So I'm gonna go ahead and fix these other ones. Okay. Here, let's just get rid of this one. All right, so I'm curious if I can, I'm gonna cut that, paste it down here and comment it out. Curious if I can do like an arrow function where I pass in is expanded. I feel like I can't because how do I pass it in, right? All right, so we're gonna leave this one off, but we can put those three in it. Okay, so background color is in it. All right. We were able to move those. All right, so now let's just go ahead and add layer. Style is going to be accordion button. All right, let's take a look and make sure it works as expected. And yeah, it does. All right, so we are going to end this video here, and then we're going to go ahead and move on to editing our project, our individual project pages next. All right, I'll see you in a bit.